Hi, welcome back to Joe Blogs. In today's episode, we're going to talk about one of the most famous families in America that begins with a K, and I don't mean the Kardashians. Over the course of the last 50 years, the Kennedy family has been synonymous with US politics, and in today's video, we're going to look at the conspiracy theory that the family is cursed. Now, the reason that I'm making a special introduction for today's video is that this video forms part of a new experiment that I'm running on the channel. I've been looking for ways to develop the channel and to create more content. And I think delving into the history books is a really interesting thing to do. So what I'd like to do this time around is try to encourage people to make videos about interesting historic events. Now, the format is going to be exactly the same as the Joe Blogs format. So the whole video needs to be broken down into chapters and nicely structured with an intro and a summary at the end. So have a look at today's video to get a feel for the format. And if you think this is something you'd like to be involved in, then drop me an email at the email that's listed on my About page. So anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed seeing me again, the Joe Blog sign, one of the statues, and I really hope that you enjoy the video.
In the chapters of American history, the Kennedy family stands as an enduring symbol of power, charisma, and tragedy. Time and again, they have captured the nation's attention, but alongside their triumphs, a dark cloud of misfortune looms. It was Ted Kennedy, the youngest of the famous Kennedy brothers, who once questioned whether some awful curse did actually hang over all the Kennedys. In today's video, we'll delve deep into the lives of the Kennedy family and explore the prominent and world-changing figures who have fallen foul of the so-called Kennedy curse. We will start by looking at the Kennedys before JFK's assassination, the tragedy that went hand in hand with their rise through politics and the circles of American power. When the Kennedy curse is mentioned, one man immediately is brought to the forefront of every individual's mind: the 35th President of the United States, John F. Kennedy. His charisma and vision captivated a generation before he met his untimely demise at the hand of an assassin's bullet in Dallas, Texas on November 2nd, 1963. Yet before even his own death, his life had already been shaped by tragedy due to the death of his infant child a few months prior. The spotlight will then shift to Robert Kennedy, JFK's younger brother and an influential figure in his own right. His death was arguably as shocking and violent as his own brother's, yet this time it came before he could reach the pinnacle of politics. We will then look at Ted Kennedy, and while he never fell foul of an assassin's bullet, his life was undeniably shaped by close calls and tragedy, from a plane crash in his youth to the infamous Chappaquiddick incident. We will then look at the less well-known but still as important minor Kennedys, from John Kennedy Jr.'s death in 1999 to the recent disappearance of Meave Kennedy McKean and her 8-year-old son in 2020. Undeniably, the Kennedy family has shaped American politics in ways very few families have. Their names carry as much weight as the Bushes, the Clintons or the Roosevelts, and are as synonymous as their names are with politics, power or the Democratic Party, they surely are with tragedy. In today's video, we will look at the story of the Kennedy curse. Chapter 1. The Kennedys before the presidency. Amidst the tumultuous backdrop of World War II, the Kennedy family was already encountering the harbingers of a dark destiny that would come to be known as the infamous Kennedy curse. In the early 1940s, tragedy struck the family with a series of heart-wrenching events that would foreshadow the pain and loss they would endure for decades to come. The year was 1944 when the Kennedy family first received a devastating blow. Joseph P. Kennedy Jr., the eldest son of Joseph and Rose Kennedy, was a promising young man, surely destined for greatness like his father before him. He had already made a name for himself as a naval aviator during World War II, but on a fateful day in August, his plane disappeared during a top-secret mission over Europe. The news of his presumed death shook the family to its core. The Kennedy patriarch, Joseph Kennedy Sr., was left grappling with the crushing loss of a cherished son, a burden that no parent should ever bear. Tragedy struck again a few months later, when the family faced another loss. Kathleen Kennedy, the second daughter of Joseph and Rose, had embarked on a journey of love with William Cavendish, the Marquis of Hartington and heir to the Duke of Devonshire. Their union had been celebrated with much joy, yet it was short-lived. While serving as a lieutenant colonel in the British Army, William Cavendish was shot dead at the age of 26 by a sniper whilst leading a company trying to capture the town of Heppen in Belgium from troops of the German Waffen-SS. Kathleen was widowed, her dreams of a happily ever after seemingly shattered, and her family mourned a loss, with many more to come. However, the heartache didn't end there. In 1948, the Kennedy family was yet again struck by devastating loss. Kathleen Kennedy, or Kick as she was affectionately called, had embarked on a new chapter in her life, having remarried to William Hartington. On a rainy day in May, while en route to the French Riviera, she was aboard a plane which crashed, killing everybody on board. The news of her death sent shockwaves throughout the family, and once again they were left to mourn the untimely loss of a beloved daughter and sister. Before both of these deaths, the fate of their beloved daughter, Rosemary Kennedy, added another layer of anguish for the Kennedy family. Rosemary, the third child of Joseph and Rose Kennedy, had been born with intellectual disabilities. In a misguided attempt to find a so-called cure for her behavioural challenges, Rosemary was subjected to a lobotomy in 1941. This procedure sadly left her severely incapacitated, robbing her of the vibrant spirit that she once possessed. Later on in her life, despite the odds stacked against her, Rosemary found solace in the companionship of a younger sister, Eunice Kennedy. The bond between the two sisters grew stronger as Eunice became fiercely protective of Rosemary, advocating for her care and well-being. It was Eunice who would go on to become a driving force behind the Special Olympics, an organisation founded in 1968 to empower individuals with intellectual disabilities, inspired by her sister's spirit and resilience. Chapter 2. Dallas, Texas. In the autumn of 1963, tragedy struck the Kennedy family once again, this time in the form of two profound personal losses. Just a few months prior to that fateful day of November the 22nd, the Kennedy family endured the heart-wrenching death of their infant son, Patrick Bouvier Kennedy, born prematurely on August 7th, 1963. Patrick struggled for survival, but tragically succumbed to haline membrane disease just 2 days later. The loss of their youngest child cast a pall over the Kennedy family, deepening the sense of vulnerability that seemed to haunt them. Then came that unforgettable day in Dallas, Texas. On the morning of November the 22nd, 1963, President John F. Kennedy, his wife Jacqueline Kennedy, and Texas Governor John Connally arrived in the city amidst enthusiastic crowds, ready to participate in a motorcade through downtown Dallas. As their open-top limousine made its way through the cheering masses, a sudden barrage of gunfire shattered the air. Bullets struck the president and the governor, leaving them severely wounded. Rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital, President Kennedy received emergency medical attention, but the injuries were too severe to overcome. At 1 p.m, John F. Kennedy was pronounced dead, sending shockwaves not only across America, but around the world. The nation was plunged into mourning as news of the assassination spread like wildfire. The dark spectre of the Kennedy curse seemed to loom larger than ever before. The immediate aftermath of the assassination was riddled with confusion and apprehension. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was hastily sworn in as the 36th President of the United States aboard Air Force One before it departed for Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, Lee Harvey Oswald, the prime suspect, was arrested for the murder of Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit and later charged with the assassination of President Kennedy. 2 days later, on November the 24th, as the nation still grappled with grief, a shocking event unfolded on live television. While being transferred from the city jail to the county jail, Oswald was shot and killed by nightclub owner Jack Ruby in a stunning act of vigilantism. The abrupt demise of the suspected assassin left a cloud of uncertainty over the investigation, fueling numerous conspiracy theories that persist to this day. President Kennedy's assassination had an incredible impact on the Kennedy family. His death marked a profound turning point in the trajectory of what is now known as the Kennedy curse, serving as the most tragic chapter in a series of devastating events that had befallen them. It brought to the forefront of the public consciousness the vulnerability of those who carried the Kennedy name and the cost of public service in a nation marked by turmoil and division. Beyond the familial grief, the assassination of President Kennedy had a seismic effect on American society and politics. His untimely death represented the loss of a visionary leader who has inspired hope and optimism in a generation. The subsequent investigations and the enduring legacy of his presidency have become an integral part of the nation's history, sparking countless debates and analysis. Chapter 3: A Dream of Things That Never Were. The year was 1968, and the United States were engulfed in turmoil. Over the last 5 years, not only had the president been assassinated, civil rights campaigner Malcolm X had too been shot untimely, as had in 1968 Martin Luther King. Against this backdrop of civil rights struggles, anti-war protests and social unrest, Robert F. Kennedy, the charismatic and compassionate younger brother of President John F. Kennedy, stepped onto the political stage as a presidential candidate. Robert Kennedy's campaign resonated deeply with a nation yearning for change and hope in the face of adversity. As he travelled the country, his message of unity and empathy struck a chord with the American people, propelling him surely towards the Democratic nomination. On June the 4th, 1968, the Californian presidential primary took centre stage, a crucial event in the hotly contested race for the Democratic nomination. Senator Kennedy arrived in Los Angeles to rally supporters and seek their crucial votes. Later that evening, whilst Kennedy addressed a jubilant crowd at the Ambassador Hotel, even though the race had been intense, as the votes were counted, it became clear that Robert Kennedy had won the Californian primary by a narrow margin. This close victory not only added to the excitement of the evening, but also provided a promising route to the Democratic nomination. The momentum was on his side, and the dream of becoming the Democratic nominee and potentially the President of the United States seemed within reach. However, literally minutes after his victory speech, tragedy struck. As he was leaving the podium through a kitchen pantry, gunshots rang out. Sirhan, a disturbed individual with a motive rooted in his resentment towards Kennedy's support for Israel, had opened fire, hitting the senator multiple times. The pandemonium that followed was heart-wrenching. The wounded Robert Kennedy was rushed to the hospital where doctors fought to save his life. The nation held its breath, clinging to hope for his recovery. Yet, on June the 6th, 1968, at the age of 42, Robert F. Kennedy succumbed to his injuries, leaving once more a nation devastated and his family shattered. The dramatic events of the Californian primary served as a haunting parallel to the tragic fate that had befallen his older brother, President Kennedy, just 5 years earlier. The echoes of their Kennedy curse resounded loud and clear, leaving the Kennedy family once more alone to mourn. Robert Kennedy's assassination carried immense significance beyond the family. The loss of another Kennedy figure, a symbol of hope and social progress, left a clear impact on American politics and society. His unwavering commitment to civil rights and social justice left a gaping hole in the political landscape. His ideals and his dreams he championed were left unfulfilled, leaving a poignant what if that still lingers today in history's conscience. With the losses of two of their brightest stars, the Kennedy curse appeared unyielding in its relentless pursuit. The burden of grief, sacrifice and unfulfilled promises weighed heavily on those who bore the Kennedy name, forcing them to confront a destiny marked by tragedy and uncertainty. The assassination of Robert Kennedy, in the midst of the tumultuous year of 1968, was a deeply significant event. As a charismatic and compassionate presidential candidate, RFK's vision for a united and just America resonated with the nation. However, his life was cut short by an act of senseless violence, adding yet another devastating chapter to the Kennedy curse. His untimely death helped to characterise 1968 as the year that broke America. Chapter 4: The Lion of the Senate. Although he never fell foul of an assassin's bullet like his two brothers, Ted Kennedy was undeniably affected by the Kennedy curse just as much. In 1964, Ted Kennedy, the youngest of the Kennedy brothers, faced a life-threatening event that shook the family and the nation once again. While campaigning for a Democratic colleague in Massachusetts, his small private plane crashed, leaving him with a broken back and internal injuries. As he recovered, his brother Robert Kennedy remarked, "Somebody up there doesn't like us," which helped to reflect the sense of tragedy that seemed to follow the Kennedy family like a shadow. One of the most notorious incidents in Ted Kennedy's life occurred on July 18th, 1969, at Chappaquiddick Island. After attending a party, Ted Kennedy drove his car off a bridge into a tidal channel. He managed to escape the vehicle, but his passenger, Mary Jo Kopenick, drowned. The incident sparked controversy, as Kennedy failed to report the incident to the authorities until the next day, raising questions about his actions and decision-making that night. The Chappaquiddick incident had a profound impact on Ted Kennedy's political career, particularly during his 1980 presidential run. The incident cast a dark cloud over his reputation, and many questioned his ability to lead after such a tragic event. Despite the accident, Kennedy decided to challenge incumbent President Jimmy Carter for the Democratic nomination. Yet, the incident continued to haunt him throughout the campaign, and it became evident that he could not escape the spectre of Chappaquiddick. Ultimately, Carter secured the nomination, leaving Ted Kennedy's presidential aspirations unfulfilled. The tragedies that befell Ted Kennedy's brothers, John and Robert, weighed heavily on his shoulders, leaving him reluctant to pursue the presidency. The deaths of his two beloved brothers cast a long shadow over his life, and he often felt the weight of their unfinished legacies. Despite these setbacks, Ted Kennedy dedicated his life to public service. As the Lion of the Senate, he championed numerous legislative initiatives, focusing on healthcare, civil rights and education. His commitment to social justice and his ability to reach across the aisle earned him the respect and admiration of colleagues from both sides of the political spectrum, a rare sight nowadays. Ted Kennedy's political career spanned over 5 decades, making him one of the longest-serving senators in American history. Throughout his tenure, he left an indelible mark on the nation's legislative landscape. However, the shadows of the Chappaquiddick incident and the tragic death of his brothers remain a defining aspect of his life and legacy. Thus, it is undeniable that Ted Kennedy's life was marked by a series of tragic events. The impact of these incidents on his political ambitions was profound, but the losses of his two brothers, John and Robert, left him reluctant to pursue the presidency in the first place. Yet, he persevered and dedicated himself to a life of public service, leaving a lasting impact on the nation's legislative landscape. Ted Kennedy's story is a poignant reminder of the enduring weight of the Kennedy curse, a destiny marred by heartache and loss, yet characterized by unwavering resilience and commitment to the betterment of society. Chapter 5. The Minor Kennedys. The Kennedy curse has affected more than just the big three Kennedy brothers. David A. Kennedy, son of Robert F. Kennedy and Ethel, fell victim to the curse in 1984 when he tragically died of a drug overdose at the young age of 28. His untimely death was a painful blow to the family, leaving them to grapple with the devastating effects of addiction and the spectre of the curse. Another prominent figure in the Kennedy family was John F. Kennedy Jr., also known affectionately as John John. He lived a life in the public eye, carrying the weight of his father's legacy and the Kennedy name. In 1999, tragedy struck once more, as John Jr., along with his wife Carolyn Bassett Kennedy and her sister Lauren Bassett, died in a plane crash off the coast of Martha's Vineyard. The nation mourned the loss of this charismatic and promising figure, his death once again fueling speculation about the Kennedy curse. As recently as in 2020, the curse seemed to rear its head yet again, when Meave Kennedy McKean, granddaughter of Robert Kennedy, and her 8-year-old son Gideon disappeared during a canoeing incident at Chesapeake Bay. After days of searching, their bodies were tragically found. This incident left the family grappling with yet another painful loss, highlighting the inescapable nature of the Kennedy curse, even in the 2020s. Some other public incidents or deaths of Kennedys affected by the Kennedy curse include, but are not limited to, Joseph P. Kennedy II, the eldest son of Robert Kennedy, survived a car crash in 1973 that left his passenger Pam Kelly paralysed. Congressman Patrick J. Kennedy, son of Ted Kennedy, struggled with substance abuse and mental health issues, fighting to overcome the challenges that came with the Kennedy legacy. Michael Kennedy, son of Robert F. Kennedy, died in a skiing accident in 1997, prompting more speculation about the curse. Cara Kennedy, daughter of Ted Kennedy, passed away in 2011, succumbing to a heart attack at the age of 51 while she was exercising. The tragedies that have befallen even the minor Kennedys underscore the ominous presence of the Kennedy curse, a dark legacy that does seem to follow the family relentlessly. Despite their prominence and privilege, the Kennedys have not been spared from the harsh hand of fate, and the public has witnessed the heartache and loss that has shaped their lives. The Kennedy curse, undeniably, looms large in the legacy of one of America's most powerful families. To conclude, the Kennedy curse was, and still is, undeniably a fascinating piece of American history. Whether or not the curse has any basis in reality, or is just a string of morbid coincidences, is up for debate. Yet, while the Kennedys are still in the news, with controversial Robert F. Kennedy Jr. running for the Democratic nomination, and former Congressman Joseph P. Kennedy III still involved in politics at such a young age, the Kennedy curse will still play a prominent role in the public consciousness. Thank you all for watching. This was a very fun and interesting video to make. If you would be interested in a longer video about the assassinations of JFK or RFK, then please do let us know in the comments below. But for now, please like, subscribe, and have a great day.